ever wonder how is it the Dragon Isles are the center of the Dragon civilization, yet the aspects became the aspects in Northrend? There are proto-dragons in Northrend. Yogg-Saron, that corrupted Galakrond, is in Northrend. That Blizzard decided to just all of a sudden mention that he is indeed still around a few months back. Galakrond's bones are still in Northrend. We have heavy hints for decay magic and dragonflight and the possible return of both Galakrond and the old gods. At the same time, a gigantic Titan Watcher that used to patrol near the bones of Galakrond in the Wyrmrest Temple in Dragonflight is all of a sudden missing, and no one knows where he is. Why? Is Dragonblight a natural dragon graveyard where they're all drawn towards, and could we be returning to this place as soon as the next patch in Dragonflight? Naturally, as gamers, we spend a long time on a monitor which emits blue light, which can be harmful to your eyes, but the sponsor of this video, Chingy Performance, has the perfect solution, is it can block the harmful effects. They sent me these glasses about a year back, and they've come in super handy when I'm spending a long time in front of a monitor, as it can really reduce the strain. Now, for the next 48 hours, you can get nearly half the price on the glasses. All you have to do is check out my link in the description below. I gotta say, it is definitely strange how the entire aspect storyline, all the zones, all the Titan temples, and everything aspect related seems to be based on the Dragon Isles that supposedly used to be isles even back when Kalimdor was a single continent, yet there is such an insane amount of dragon history and just dragon culture all over Northrend. There is literally the Wyrmrest Temple that is the center of dragon civilization and their main hub, and this makes about zero sense since supposedly the center of dragon civilization is on the so-called Dragon Isles, as we had just learned. Some would say after the Dragon Isles were hidden away by magic, the dragons needed a new place to call home and a new center, but seriously, I mean, keep in mind, Wyrmrest Temple is older than most of the Dragon Isles. This is where the entire Galakrond event happened, that entire battle, that entire fight. For some reason, Dragonblight is the graveyard for all dragons. It is the place where they're also, for some reason, they go here to die. There are proto-dragons all over Northrend. The aspects became a thing in Northrend when they were blessed by the Keepers. It wasn't the Dragon Isles where they became the aspects. The main Titan Keeper facilities are in Northrend. The bones of Galakrond are still in Northrend. Now, I gotta say, now that we have explored the entirety of the Dragon Isles, this seriously makes no sense. Why would all this not be happening on a different continent? We don't have an actual map of what Azeroth used to look like before the Sundering. At least with the current information, we have the one from the Chronicle, but that is not really relevant as you can't see the Dragon Isles. But we know for certain that Northrend wasn't a continent, it was just a part of Kalimdor, and based on the current location of the Dragon Isles on the map of Azeroth, I would say they were probably near the shore of Northrend, which is why they have more history here than they have on the supposed Dragon Isles, which, as the name says, should really be the center of their civilization, not the Dragonblight. I know, realistically, this is kind of an inconsistency since Blizzard just came up with the Isles. Northrend was probably supposed to be their center, but I think they're going to just go along with it, they're going to tie it together, and that we are going to be returning to Northrend in some way in Dragonflight, and there are actually a bunch of hints, and when I say a bunch, I really mean a bunch. So, the first major hint is obviously Galakrond and that entire storyline. As you may know, he fell in this place. You can actually see his bones in this place at this exact date. At the moment, his story is more than relevant, more than it was ever relevant. There is decay magic all over, just everywhere. There are all these elemental hints. There are the Primalists, that are the followers of Galakrond. There is the entire upcoming storyline with Eredikron and his sacred secret mission, and huge possibilities of Galakrond being awakened in some way. Just Galakrond as a whole, as a story, is more relevant than ever, and he is currently in the center of Northrend as we speak. Second, we have Sindragosa returning in Dragonflight as a memory, and as you may know, she also died in Northrend. She was resurrected by the Lich King, defeated once again, and in a way, she is tied to this place. Now, more important than anything, we also have the Titan facilities and all that being relevant in Dragonflight. As is obvious, Northrend was like the crown of Azeroth back when it was a continent. It was literally at the top, and this is the reason why Ulduar was here, the main base of the Titan Keepers, where they just overlooked everything and all their creations. Every other facility across Azeroth is more there to be of some use, to accomplish some purpose, but this here was the center of Titan civilization, like the brain of the entire thing. At the moment, we are going to Tyrhold, one of the facilities, learning a whole lot about the Titans and how they actually established their civilization on Azeroth. We're being told that they kind of lied about a lot of stuff, and all that can change everything from the ground up, and if it is going to change anything, it is going to change Northrend, the center of the Titan civilization. We're learning significant information from just random facilities across Azeroth that weren't even super relevant. Now imagine what we could learn from the actual source where all their actual brainstorming happened. Now this isn't even just my random speculation, just talking about Northrend for no reason. Blizzard recently released a book exploring Azeroth Northrend where they revealed some new information. First, that major Titan Watcher, the massive guy Jotun that used to walk the path of the Titans in Dragonblight right next to the Dragon Tower, is actually missing and no one knows where he is. I mean, think about it, like, why would they just write this lore all of a sudden, some random guy just out of the blue? And how could a guy the size of like half the zone go missing? No one would know. Like, with the size of him, I feel like there would at least be a single witness, unless he went somewhere underground. Could it be possible that he might be going to fulfill some ancient purpose that he was created for, especially now with all the hints of Azeroth awakening and the possible return of one of the main Titan Keepers, Tyr? Now, next on the line, we have the most important hint that ties in literally perfectly with all the other Dragonflight hints that are just all over the place. In the book, Blizzard just confirmed that Yogg-Saron's presence still haunts the halls of Ulduar, heavily hinting that he is in fact alive. Honestly, it makes sense. The old gods don't seem to be able to actually die, at least in the mortal sense of the word. We have seen that life and death cycle, they're just a cycle thing in Warcraft, and these guys seem to be outside of it. Now, all of this could be a coincidence, but I really heavily doubt it. Why would they decide to now, when we have a million old god hints, confirm that Yogg-Saron is around in Northrend out of all the other times? At the same time, they literally just confirmed that it was Yogg-Saron that corrupted Galakrond and that corrupted the water source in the Dragon Isles, and up until this point, this was a mystery for the longest time, and they just gave us these two banger hints and foreshadowings in the span of like 2 weeks. Why would Blizzard reveal this mystery now when the old gods are incredibly relevant? I feel like, honestly, this is not without reason. At the moment, we have hints for pretty much every old god that we know of, even the possible fifth one, Xal'atath, that we don't know of. We have our travel to the Black Empire in the main questline, and the very likely return of N'Zoth and all his time travel shenanigans and reading our mind. We know the old gods are behind the corruption of Galakrond, who more than likely use decay magic, and we have all of a sudden a mysterious appearance of decay on the Dragon Isles that is trying to corrupt arcane ley lines that are Titan in origin. Now, think about it. Galakrond is in Northrend, the place where the Aspects became a thing was in Northrend, Yogg-Saron is in Northrend, most of the Dragon history is in Northrend. At the moment, we know that the Dragon Aspects are having a bit of trouble getting their powers back, so what if this would have to happen in Northrend, right where the Wyrmrest Temple is, and right where Galakrond's bones are, and where they first became the Aspects? I personally doubt, I mean, it's just not realistic that Blizzard is just going to revamp the entire continent. It would be very unlikely for them to just add 2 continents in a single expansion, but it could totally become some sort of an instance. Maybe the Aspects have to go to Dragonblight in order to get their Aspect powers back, but Iridikron is suddenly using these powers to channel them and to resurrect Galakrond, and we have to stop it. And at the same time, Yogg-Saron is kind of influencing stuff, like he's kind of in the background. I think it is super strange that all dragons are for some reason naturally drawn to Dragonblight, and for some reason this place out of any other is their natural graveyard as opposed to, you know, the Dragon Isles where they're actually from. What if this has been a plot orchestrated by Yogg-Saron so that all the bones would be right next to him, and ultimately they could be used for some sinister purpose? We know Galakrond had an entire army of Unliving, which were the very first undead ever on Azeroth, and you know who was the source of this undeath that Blizzard just confirmed? Yogg-Saron. Furthermore, as we can see with the Jailer in Shadowlands, he was also hyper-focused on Northrend. The ending of Shadowlands was in Northrend, all that machinery, the World Soul of Azeroth. So I feel like that entire expansion was just a setup for what is going to happen in the very near future. Of course, at the moment, all of these are mainly just kind of wild speculation territory, but seriously, I feel like there is more dragon history in Northrend as opposed to their own isles, and that Northrend would just have to be relevant in an expansion that is based on dragons that is called Dragonflight. There are also the main Titan facilities, the prison of Yogg-Saron, the very high likelihood of something very important related to Azeroth's World Soul being in Northrend as well, so I could totally see us going back to this continent. Thank you for watching. Check out our possible return to Forbidden Reach and why Azerite is there by clicking on the screen, and check out the Runes Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.